Hello, Internet. You have James Baker here with your friend Joaquín Rosales, attorney at law, immigration master, expert of all things. And today I want to talk about different ways to get a green card in the United States. And Joaquín is probably going to ask me some tax questions about the impacts of getting a green card. And we'll go over some hypotheticals and just ask a number of questions so that we can get some information to you. So if you're a person considering getting a green card, or a person considering starting a business in the United States, or ever becoming a tax resident in the United States, there's going to be some good, valuable information in this video. And if you want ever more follow up on this, you can just contact us with the comments below, message us, whatever. There's a lot of ways to find us on the internet. Okay, so without any more prelude, I want to say a different way of saying without further ado, but without any more prelude.
Yeah.
Joaquín.
Yes.
In your opinion, right now.
We're not gonna do. Okay.
No, I'm just gonna ask you questions.
Let's jump in. All right.
Oh, in your opinion, right now, if you're a well-educated, semi-notorious, accomplished individual with resources, what's your way that you're getting a green card? What are you gonna recommend? What's the easiest way to do it right now? If you're like accomplished, you have some resources, and you're from let's say you're from an E2 country too, whatever, everything.
You already answered the question, man.
No, to get a green card.
I'm just playing. All right, so there's several ways. I mean, depending obviously on the circumstances and the profile of the client. You mentioned that the example client has been, I don't know, pretty good in their own industry, I guess.
I guess the question is more like, what in terms of like the EB 1, 2, 3, and 5, what's the best chance of getting accepted and what's the fastest?
Okay, well, right now obviously things are moving slow regardless, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, there's several different types of visas, like you mentioned, EB1, EB2s. That's depending on your abilities, whether or not you have something considered as extraordinary ability, an exceptional ability. Right now, it would be more important if it has to deal with the economy, or if it deals with the health environment, right?
Oh, so accomplished doctors.
That type of stuff, yeah.
So like would an EB1 or 2 be better for someone who qualifies for both?
For sure. I mean, you can do EB1 or 2, but I mean, if you have the resources as well, you mentioned that you can always go for the good old EB5, but you have to have, at least $900,000. There's two types of EB5s. Just to explain it quickly, one where you basically just hand out the $900,000 and it's managed in what it's called a regional center. You don't really have any contribution besides the financial contribution. You don't really run or operate anything. The other one is if you do at least 1.8 million, you got to employ at least 10 Americans, and then you can have a hands-on, running the operation and all that. Obviously, those are pretty huge figures, but another way of doing this is perhaps doing a relatively speaking smaller investment, which would be through an E2, and then eventually we can move on to a visa that's going to lead you to a residency. Regardless, obviously, all these avenues will lead to tax consequences. So this is where I want to ask you.
I want to answer you. You didn't answer my question. I want you to pick your favorite visa. Just pick your favorite one.
My favorite visa?
If you can do any of them? You didn't answer the question. If you can pick any, if you qualify for every visa, which one would you do right now?
If you qualify for the national interest waiver visa,
the EB3.
No, it'll be EB2.
The EB2. Okay, the EB2
because
national
that's the one
waiver.
that there's a higher probability of getting approved right now, since you can't really have anybody come in with a new green card now until past January 1st.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for.
So,
the EB2 NIW. I didn't know that was the answer, but
yes.
Okay.
That will be the best one.
So in summary, if you're rich with means and you're accomplished and you have done everything and you want to come to the U.S.,
you have to be rich for those.
You don't have to be rich, but you have to. But
you have to be accomplished.
So just accomplished.
Just jumping into a little things that we look into is, has there been any circulation in the media about the work that you've done, or the stuff that you've done, your accomplishments? Have you received any, sort of international or national recognized awards? You've been a judge in a panel that judges people who are doing things within your industry. There's several variables that you can take into consideration.
And for that's very interesting. And for I'm sorry to take over the questions and just crush you with questions, but for all the clients that we've met and worked with, because generally you do the immigration and then I work with them on the tax planning. That's kind of how we do it together. Most of these people, the process takes so long that they have time to get a lot of these things put together.
Correct.
Like if you want to do the application, you can just make a panel and be the judge of it or whatever, and like publish some good articles.
Yeah,
but through
that's a good thing. So I mean, building up the case takes a little bit, and I mean, you can always build your profile. So after we have a conversation, hey, perhaps you had an invitation to be a judge in a panel, but you didn't really have any interest on it.
Yeah.
And now that you're trying to come to the United States, that's one of the variables that could be looked at as a favorable thing for your process. So you want to do it, right? So just like you said, I mean, you can work on your profile and make it better, so your chances of getting an approval are higher.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So then let me ask you something. So we've done this before. Sorry, I got my dog's hair like all over my pants, as usual. So talk to me a little bit about, I sort of know a little bit of the answer, but just for this video's sake, when you come in and let's say a non-immigrant visa, meaning that you're not a resident, right? But you're going to be here for a while, like the E2. The E2, it doesn't lead you to a residency, but it allows you to be here for even up to 5 years. So what happens with those people in terms of taxation? Do they have to pay the same?
Okay.
What goes on with that?
Great question. So Joaquin asking me, what are the tax implications of coming to the U.S. on an E2 visa, and like what do you need to look out for? So from that point, the first is residency. If you're going to be staying in the United States for less than 183 days in a given year, you wouldn't be a U.S. resident. You only pay taxes on U.S. source income. Over a 3-year period, it goes down to basically 120 days a year over a 3-year period, like each year. So if you're staying in the U.S. every year as much as you can, it's basically 120 days before you become a resident. So that's the biggest distinction. Once you're a resident, then you have to pay tax on your worldwide income, and it's a lot more complicated. But when you're a non-resident still, you only pay tax on your U.S. source income, which is your business income, and whatever you pay yourself. And that's a little bit easier to manage.
So after the 183 days, you pay taxes on just your U.S.-based income.
No, after 183 days, it's your worldwide income.
Oh, it's worldwide.
After 183 days. So that means that it doesn't mean you're necessarily paying more taxes. It just means you have to report a lot more stuff. So if you're from a high tax country, then you might be okay. But the new rules and the new laws put in place in 2018 kind of make it unfavorable for people who own foreign companies personally, because if there's any profits that are left in the company, basically that would be taxed by the owner, the individual. And it's definitely case by case basis, and there's different ways to set it up. But the important part to know here is that if you have foreign companies and you have foreign bank accounts and you have any kind of money generating activity outside of the United States, when you're a U.S. resident, you have to report everything.
So is there any way that you can sort of dwindle down, the taxation if you have some sort of a structuring prior to arriving in the States and, getting to that 183rd day?
Yeah, so obviously if you do some pre-immigration tax planning, we're going to advise you based on your situation on how to structure everything. The short answer is that if you're paying taxes in your home country, if you're from Europe, for example, where the tax rates are generally higher than they are in the United States, then you won't, if you structure it the right way, you won't have any additional tax. There's no double taxation, especially in treaty countries where there's a tax treaty. And if you're from a low tax country and you basically don't pay any taxes, that's when you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because at this point you're going to have to report everything and pay at least to the U.S. tax rates. So that's kind of that's the idea there. So this was another quick episode of Account vs. Attorney. We talk about the best ways to get a green card. Joaquin talked through a lot of them, but really, if you are a little bit famous in your field, the EB2 NIW is the best option. And from my comments here in this video is basically when you become a resident, you have to report everything.
All right, well, thank you for being with us. And once again, please don't forget to hit that ravishing like button.
Ravishing, yeah. Thanks for watching the video, everyone, and comment if you want to know anything else. Happy to share.
Have a good one.